Hi friends, and thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to be talking about getting an art degree. I am a recent grad, not so recent. I graduated in like May, and I graduated with an art degree, and these are pretty much all the things I wish someone told me these things before getting my degree. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So personally, I graduated with a degree in animation. I actually didn't go to an art school. I went to a tech school that had a really good animation program, which is why this video is mostly about getting an art degree and not going to art school, because I feel like those are different things. I went to college in 2020 and I started applying to schools in 2019, so I feel like the industry has also changed significantly since then. Obviously, like AI wasn't really an issue back in 2019 when I was applying to getting an art degree, so I will touch on that in this video as well. First, we're going to start with the cons of getting an art degree, because let's be real, that's probably why you clicked on this video. I don't know. I don't want this to completely dissuade you from doing something that you love, but these are really things I wish someone would have told me sooner. First, which is the most obvious one, is cost. Not everyone can afford to go to college. Not everyone can afford to have student loans hanging on them. Now, there are a lot of schools with art degrees that are more affordable. Again, typically art schools are more expensive, but you can get a pretty good art education without going to art school. The choice of going to college isn't really an option for everyone. For me, it was an option because I was an international student when I came to the US and I really wanted to go to college here. It also was really the only option for me if I wanted to get a career in the States as someone who is not from the States. Also, you're going to be spending a lot of time in college focusing on things that don't have to do with your degree, so that isn't really cost effective if you think about it. So again, if college is really expensive and you feel like, oh, an art degree isn't really worth the cost, that is a discussion in and of itself. This kind of leads me to my next point, where your college education in terms of getting an art degree is going to be really vague and not as highly specialized as you would probably like it to be. Any undergraduate or bachelor's degree is going to require you to take something called electives, which are basically classes which have nothing to do with your major. Now, obviously, these aren't bad things. It's good to get a well-rounded perspective and well-rounded view of the world in general, as well as other topics, but they don't necessarily add to your degree and to your learning, especially if you're trying to go into a very specific field. Let's say you want to become a character designer, and so you decide to get a college degree in illustration. You're probably going to be spending maybe 70% of your time not doing character design. For me, I wanted to get a degree in animation, and honestly, going into it, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do within the animation field, but the amount of time I spent actually animating was maybe 50% of my degree. The rest of it was a whole lot of extra stuff like designing backgrounds, designing characters, learning different software, taking electives, like I said, storyboarding, all these extra things that you have to learn as part of your degree, but also kind of have nothing to do with maybe the industry that you actually want to go into or the niche that you actually want to go into. I can really only speak on animation because that's the degree I got, but again, if you're using the example of, let's say you want to become a storyboard artist, you're only really going to take maybe 1 or 2 storyboarding specific classes, but then everything else you do, you're not going to be doing much storyboarding. And so at the end of it, you'll really only have a few handful of projects to show in your portfolio that actually have something to do with storyboarding. For me, I feel like this is one of the biggest cons. I wish I knew this better when I went into college. I knew that I was going to be learning a wide range of things, but how wide was kind of crazy to me. I highly recommend that if whatever, university you're looking to, whatever degree you're looking into, to go into your university's website and look at the specific courses that you're going to be taking. Usually most classes give you an entire breakdown of every class you're going to be taking from the time you're a freshman all the way up until you're a senior, and every class you take in between them. I highly recommend looking at that and maybe even talking to alum or current students about their current experience, because obviously every school is different. Maybe my school was just like this and didn't offer that many opportunities for specializing in specific niches, and maybe other schools don't do that. But this is my personal experience, and I feel like this is what a lot of people don't tell you. Another con is that everything is project based. This is kind of obvious, like, yeah, duh, if you're gonna go to an art school or get an art degree, then obviously you're going to be making art. And so these are the projects that you're going to be getting graded on. But the reason it was kind of a con for me was that a lot of the projects that you work on, you're probably going to be given a project at the beginning of the semester, and then it's just that project that you work on all semester for maybe a specific class. Those really burnt me out, and it was really tough to work on those because you're legitimately working on the same project for months. Now, some people, this might work really well for them. Maybe they like working on the same project for a long amount of time. But for me, max, I like working on a project for a month maybe. But instead, you're given this like 3-month, 4-month timeline, depending on your semester, quarterly, whatever. And it can get really exhausting to work on the same project over and over and over and over again. Maybe it's because I'm an animation major. Animations do take a long time to do, so obviously you want to be given a long time to work on them. But for me, this became really exhausting after a while, so to each their own, but this was a really big con for me. Finally, the last con that I have is that it is a very competitive industry. Maybe this is already obvious, but to me, when I was a high schooler, I knew that it was competitive, but in my mind, I was like, oh, animation's a niche. I'm gonna be able to find a job. It's gonna be great. Lo and behold, like 6 months out of college, I'm still unemployed, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But again, it is a crazy competitive industry. You have to come to terms with the fact that there's always going to be someone better than you at what you're doing. There's always going to be someone who's faster than you, like more efficient than you, etc., etc., etc. And it's kind of that, you know, small fish, big pond analogy. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but you know, let's say that you used to be the art kid in high school and then you go to college. Suddenly you're surrounded by art kids that are more likely than not a lot better than you at what you do, which is fine. You know, you're going to learn a lot, but you just have to be okay with living in that competitive environment. It's not always competitive, obviously. The people in my major were actually very supportive and often helped each other out, but I have heard stories from other friends who are doing art degrees where their majors are very competitive. So it's really, you know, it depends on what you go into, I guess. Now, let's go on to the pros. We need some, you know, motivation. First of all, a really big pro is that you're gonna learn industry standard software. So, you know, whatever you learn in college is probably what actual professionals are using in their day-to-day jobs. For example, if that's illustration, you're probably gonna be using things like Photoshop, Illustrator. Maybe if you're into web design, you're going to be using stuff like Figma. If you're going into 3D, you're going to be using Unreal Engine, Cinema 4D, Maya. For me in animation, I learned how to use Toon Boom, TV Paint, also After Effects, and Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that. So really, you're going to learn a lot of software, and all of these software are going to be provided to you because you're a student. That's kind of part of the cost of your tuition, you know? So that's a really big advantage because all of a sudden now you have all these Cintiqs to use and all these licenses that you're able to use for all these different programs. Again, tuition is expensive, so maybe, you know, for you it might be more cost efficient to just teach yourself these programs and pay for the license yourself. But again, you're, essentially provided all these professionals who have been using these programs for decades to teach them to you, which can be really beneficial. Another pro, which I feel like really helped me a lot, is that you get the formal structure of a degree. Essentially, you're kind of laid out how you're going to be learning everything from start to finish, from the time you're a freshman all the way up until you're a senior. For me, I feel like I personally work better and get things done when I have the looming authority behind me, basically, making sure I stay on my deadlines and I actually get all the work done. Not everyone is able to self-teach without that secondhand pressure, I guess. So if you're someone who really needs that structure, then college, or specifically getting an art degree, would be a really great option for you. The formal structure of a degree also really helps in terms of the software that I just talked about. So for example, you can take a 101 class about 2D animation, and then you can take a 102 class about implementing the animation you learned into this software, and then you take a 204 class about implementing the stuff you learned in that software in this other way. So it's really all these buildable tasks that kind of compound on each other, which is again really beneficial. Another advantage, which I feel like might be the biggest one, is networking. Now, I hate networking. I hate having to, send cold emails and talk to people and give my elevator pitch, but it really is a big part of the industry and you really have to network to succeed. And essentially what college is, specifically getting an art degree, is it's automatically giving you this huge network that you can connect with. If you're an alumni from the same school, automatic connection. If you're into Greek life and you go to like a sorority or fraternity, again, automatic connections. You're automatically connected with all the people in your major and all the older people from your major and younger people from your major. You're automatically connected with all the other art majors that you know, just by the factor that you all go to the same school. It also gives you a lot of opportunities to meet industry professionals. So most schools will, bring in industry professionals through Zoom, in person, whatever, to talk to students about, their careers, their career trajectory, if the students have any questions or advice. Again, you can find mentors or you can find connections outside of college. Nowadays, there is pretty much a Discord group for anything and everything where you can find people. I know Adobe has a lot of mentorship programs. Women in Animation is a whole mentorship program. There's all these other options, but again, college, similar to learning software, is just this quick gateway into getting all these resources at the edge of your fingertips. Another advantage I have down is getting the college experience in general. This was a really big pro for me. I knew I wanted to go to college and I knew I wanted to have that experience, especially because I just wasn't ready to go from high school straight into working on my portfolio and getting looking for jobs. Some people do feel ready for that. Not me personally. It gives you essentially this great buffer or gray area, little tutorial period where you just get to make friends and you get to learn and live life a little bit and, experience a lot of trial and error that you might not otherwise be able to do if not given the grace that college students are given. The last advantage I have is career prep. Again, college does prep you for getting a career. That's kind of the whole point of going and getting an art degree. Not the whole point, not the only point, but definitely a big reason for it. You will likely end up with a decent portfolio by the end of your college career, although it is definitely what you make of it. If you make shitty projects, then you're gonna have a shitty portfolio. If you work hard on your projects, then you're gonna have a good, well-rounded portfolio. At the end of the day, you also have a degree in a relevant or related field, which can give you an up in terms of getting into the industry. Again, nowadays, you certainly do not not need a college degree just to get a job, especially if you have a great portfolio with a lot of relevant projects. But again, I'm sure there are still other employers who see that you got a college education, which, you know, can help with getting a job. I don't know much about that as someone who doesn't have a job, but that's what I understand at least. That's pretty much it for pros and cons, but I also have some key takeaways. For me, I don't personally regret getting a college degree or an art degree in general. I'm still very happy with my choice. In hindsight, maybe I would have gotten a degree in something more like graphic design or UX UI design, but again, you know, you kind of choose your major when you're 17, so it's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And again, it's also never too late to switch majors or change what you want to do as you're in college as well. So that's always an option that you can keep in the back of your head. Also, don't feel the need to make a decision right away. I personally graduated high school in 2020. We all know what happened back then. And I know a lot of friends who did decide to just take a gap year. Now, a gap year for everyone doesn't mean, you know, you get to travel the world or whatever. For some people, that's just literally taking a break. And, you know, maybe they decide to go to community college first before just going to a public or private school or whatever. Maybe they decide to just work for a year and kind of figure out what they really want to do. You don't need to feel rushed into doing anything, and you certainly don't need to feel rushed into choosing what you want to do for the rest of your life. Some other words of comfort is that from a lot of the industry professionals that I spoke to, really what you major in college doesn't matter that much. Now, of course, it'll give you a foot into the door, if you will. But in reality, there's always opportunities to shift and change and learn new things. So even if you do feel like, oh, like, I like my degree, but I should have chosen something else, you're gonna be fine. It'll be okay. In terms of AI, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it is a very new thing that we don't still know too much about. I'm sure we all know that there are already companies that use AI for menial tasks. Some companies, cough cough, Disney, use AI for bigger projects. It is definitely a risk, and it is definitely something to keep in the back of your head, but I wouldn't let it necessarily completely dissuade you from getting a degree. You know, AI can right now at least only do so much. I think animation is still a job required. Even with AI, I think UX UI is still a heavily in demand job, even with AI, etc. So don't let it dissuade you too much, but again, definitely still something to think about. I also asked my friends who got art degrees what they wish they knew before going to college, so here are some of those. Some of them, for example, I have a friend who's not an art major, but said they wish they knew they could literally go to college anywhere in the world if they wanted to, and it never dawned on them until they studied abroad. Someone else says, I think just how much skill and practice it really takes to achieve something I like or the kind of work I see from the artists I admire. Totally agree with that. However much you think you need to work to achieve the skill set or final result you want, you'll probably need to double, if not triple, that amount of work. You really need to work hard to be, you know, like your idols or the people that you really look up to in the art world. Someone else said college is what you make of it because you can get on by minimal effort, so you have to really apply yourself to find success. Definitely true. Again, you can get by and definitely graduate and pass with not great projects, but then again, that leaves you with a pretty crummy portfolio to apply to jobs with, so it's definitely what you make of it. I wish I knew more about the animation industry before I started school, specifically all the different roles or jobs someone can have on a project and what skills I should have focused on more beforehand. Definitely true. I think, I don't know about other jobs, I can only speak to animation, but there's really so much you can do. You can literally just be in charge of lighting, for example. You can be a character rigger, you can be the modeler, you can just focus on backgrounds, you can do so many things. You can be the actual character animator, you can be the character designer, storyboarder, whatever. There's so many options. So college definitely gives you the benefit of knowing what those options are, because I definitely didn't know that you could go into all of these things before getting my art degree. Now, I feel like this one is a good one to end on. I wish I knew that creative degrees are nowhere near as useless as people think before college. I always had faith in pursuing something creative, and every day I think about all the people from my high school and such who didn't believe they could do something like this, and that art majors have so many options and specialties, and it's not as restricting as people think career-wise. I feel like that was a good one to end on. Please let me know if you'd like me to make more videos like this. I definitely have a lot of wisdoms, a lot of things to share from my time as a college student. I say that as if it was a while ago. It was literally 6 months ago. If you want me to make more videos about my post-graduating experience, such as, job searching, how I'm filling my time as someone unemployed, etc., I'll probably be making more of that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you getting an art degree right now? Are you a high school student? Are you thinking of getting an art degree? Let me know. Let me know what you're up to. Besides that, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Bye.